do the introductions. I'll just.
So here with us this evening, we have two gentlemen that are going to be doing presentations on energy savings improvement programs. Mr. Tague was not able to be with us, so I want to thank Mr. Tringali for coming. His place, he works directly, he is buildings manager, facility supervisor, you know, all the different terms. And thank you. So we appreciate you coming for presentations.
So tonight, we have two groups that'll be speaking. First is a company called ABN, Josh and Josh Smith, Joshua Smith, and Joe Bush. They will speak to you about the ESIP program, what's available, what the potential is for using a program like this to see some significant energy savings, which then again reflect back to us towards things we can purchase, things we can do with the district, mostly facilities wise, but there are some other little options available as well. So I'll let them do all the speaking. They'll pretty much give you an overview of everything they see as possibilities here. That this is just an initial kind of a get your feet wet kind of a thing to let them explain exactly what the program is all about. And after that, we'll have one other group, and then it'll be left for you to mull it over and think about what you feel more comfortable with.
Thank you. Welcome.
Perfect. Yeah, so I just want to let you know, I think this is the second group that's coming in. Have yours? Yeah, I emailed it, but I can certainly bring it up here too. Yeah. I just need to
It's all right, let it on.
show you.
I'll send it to you.
What?
We're ready.
Presentation. I can turn it into for everybody. Start dancing.
Thank you. Thank you. It's all aboard. I am Sherry, pleasure, Superintendent.
Hi, I'm Chrissy. Nice to meet you.
You guys born in Staten Island now, so don't.
Me too. If you're a stat on there, okay with me.
It says Ohio out here. Like, what?
Ohio. Huh?
Yeah, so I'm the Vice President of Sales for the Midwest and the East Coast region, so I have everything from New York to Canada, south to Kentucky, and west to Iowa. So it's a pretty big swath of territory, and got probably 8 account executives, which is what Josh is, and 3 regional directors are, you know, above the sales teams that work the field. So that's kind of how our structure goes. And then there's the development and engineering as well, that designs the projects and helps facilitate you know, calculations on savings and assesses the facilities for improvements and improvement measures. And so that's kind of how we're set up. So everybody kind of works virtual. Josh he's not too far. He's about 30 minutes.
30 minutes, yeah.
That's what he's in town. So we have just teams out there and there is. What do you know about performance contracts? Anything? Anybody have any experience with them so far?
I only know about it because I had this conversation with Mr. Tate. So it's
Okay.
my understanding that you almost provide as a managerial company where you come in and it's like you bond the money for us, you make your money off the top, and then you allow us to, you do an inspection or an overall understanding of what our needs might be facilities wise, or it could be anything. That way it could be HVAC to putting in a new baseball field.
Yeah.
And then you turn around and say it costs X amount of dollars, you go ahead and then provide the funds and then back to us with like a guaranteed savings.
Yeah, it's pretty spot on. So basically, we act as a general contractor, right, and oversee all things. So in lieu multiple procurements for multiple
Mhm.
processes. You make one selection, one procurement for an ESCO, an energy services company like ourselves, and we do a holistic approach and look at all of your facilities and make a determination of how we can help, drive savings through the organization and by reducing your energy spend and other utilizations, and then, bring those dollars back around to help offset the debt service. And there's a guarantee involved in that, right? So there's no change orders in our project. So once we give you a firm fixed price for an agreed upon scope of work, there's no change orders involved in that. And then the guaranteed savings comes back over the top and helps offset the debt service. Then we also look at other means to help generate some revenue too and bring it in through, whether it's a solar application or something along those lines as well. So you're spot on. There's exactly what those are, that kind of do. And we use the state legislation in order to drive that process.
Right, and you're one of the approved ones.
So please?
You're approved for the state.
Yes.
I just wanted to make that statement.
Yes, yes. So we've done a preliminary analysis of the facilities, about 6 months ago, Josh? Well, here we are.
Yeah, July.
Please.
Do you have a clicker? Thank you so much. Okay, yeah, apologies for that. As Joe said, we are ABM. My name is Joshua Smith. I'm the local regional account manager. Joe is my boss and has been kind enough to join us here from Ohio. So we appreciate that and we appreciate your time tonight. So we just want to walk you through a 90-second video that really does explain how performance contracting works. I'm going to hit that. Let's hope.
There we go.
Not running? Well, so why don't you just talk to the slide to show?
Yeah, so essentially what this tells you is kind of what Joe was just saying, right? We take operational savings, we use those savings to fund projects within the district. And the biggest advantage of that is that you don't need to have any kind of additional taxpayer dollars going into these projects. So we move projects from your capital operating budget to your operating budget. We can just go to the next slide. But that's the basis of the program, right? So in 2009, New Jersey put this legislation in place. And essentially, as we just said, allows for energy-related improvements to be paid for by energy savings. The term of these projects in New Jersey can be between 15 and 20 years, and that depends on the scope of work that you choose to go with. And again, this is through your existing operating budget, so we don't have to do any additional votes, any referendums, any capital raises by the taxpayers. It's completely self-funded, and that needs to be fully from day one, at least $1 cash positive for every year of the project in New Jersey. That's a requirement of legislation. So as Joe said, we came back here in July of this year, and we walked through all the schools, and found some really good opportunities. There were some bigger projects, right? Boiler replacements, chiller replacements. Those are pretty capital intensive things that we know about. There's some really great payback opportunities here when you're talking about lighting and your controls. Those are really low cost, but they deliver unbelievable savings. And so when we bundle all that stuff together, what we really get is a big pool of projects, right? You're talking about water conservation, window replacements, rooftops, controls on your walk-ins, on your hood exhaust, all those kind of things, even your infrastructure of your electrical systems. Some of the things that we will look at is solar microgrids, EV charging. That's something that the district is interested in. Fleet optimization, whether that's the routing that your buses take or replacing your buses with electrical. That's something that we'll evaluate if you want us to. And last thing is really, plug load controls. When you walk through a school, there's a lot of stuff that gets plugged in, like on overnight. We'll go through and we'll evaluate. We don't want to turn your computers off in the middle of the school, the class periods, but at night, maybe it does make sense for us to make sure there's a control and just turns it off. It just saves money. So you know, when we look at these projects, we really think about it in three lenses. District-wide, those are things that we're gonna implement throughout the district. So when we're talking about that, we're talking really primarily about building automation. So that's your control system. That's what turns your fans on and off. It sets your boilers. It knows when you're not in school tomorrow. Hopefully we are, right? You know, you can have a button and you can say, hey, we don't need to heat the school today, right? There's nobody here. So why would we do that? So that's really what we're focusing on district-wide. It's your lighting, it's your controls, and that's the stuff that's really gonna give your facilities people the tools that they need to easily make changes and to identify data and trends. Those are the two things that we want to tie together. On building specific, like we're saying, you know, that's where, hey, we've got an old boiler. What are we gonna do with this thing? We've got a chiller that needs to be replaced. So those are the measures that we've looked at. And realistically, I think, you know, from the district-wide, like I said, automation, lighting, controls, there's some building envelope stuff that we'd like to look at, and that really is your windows, your rooftops, where we'll evaluate it district-wide. Those we know are great opportunities. Building specific measures, again, the paybacks on those can vary. You might have something that's a little bit more capital intensive, but it's not saving, but it's something that needs to get done. So we're gonna make sure that we evaluate all of that stuff and we put together a long-term plan, because this is a long-term project that you're committing to 15 to 20 years. So we have to think about that when we're developing these projects.
Yeah, so under the district-wide type of capabilities, you know, the automation system and the integration system of your head-end controls, you know, I understand you've got, you know, one company running one building and another company running another building. As long as they're BACnet capable, our goal is to bring all those together to a standard operating platform that, you know, your team can go online anywhere they've got a cell phone and see what's happening with the buildings and have complete control and autonomy over all the buildings. So you're kind of future-proofing them, right? Instead of having it, you know, with 3 or 4 different companies running different things. And it doesn't matter to us necessarily. We don't sell controls. We're not a manufacturer. We have no proprietary nature to any of those. But as long as it has BACnet capability, we'll integrate them and be able to, you know, send that information to you guys remotely. So you'll be able to, at any time, you know, pull up a school, see what the temperature is, see what the lighting configurations are, make sure the security system's set, how it's running, what's happening with it, and make modifications accordingly. Right, so it's kind of a nice feature to have that, you know, that network and bring it all together for you. So that's part of what we do too. Anything that uses, loses, or consumes energy or water, we want to look at for you. But if you think of it in that context as well, then complete integrator of all those facilities. So whatever assets you have in the field, as long as they're working and the team tells us, hey, this is running and it's not a problem, it doesn't need upgraded, great. Then we want to come on the backside of it and integrate it and put time all together so you have complete control from one platform, one dashboard versus 4 or 5 different protocols and different dashboards. Makes it very cumbersome and difficult for your team to operate in that capacity at all times. So just we'll throw that out there for us district-wide.
Yeah, that's a great point, Joe. And really the last thing here, this blue box, this is something we haven't evaluated yet. Like I said, we have spent a bunch of time working on some of this stuff. But to look at this stuff really requires like a next level, right? So we would need to hire an engineer or a third-party firm who's gonna look at this. But that stuff includes EV charging, solar photovoltaic, plug load controls, as we said, or even if you're looking to do some kind of certifications, carbon neutrality, if that's something that's important to you as a district, that's the stuff that we would evaluate later in the process. But we do think that there's opportunities for that. So you guys are probably wondering, as I did before I was hired, who is ABM? We're a company that was founded in 1909. We did $8 billion in revenue last year. You can see here, we've got 250 US locations and we're kind of scattered internationally. We've got 20,000 clients and we've got 100,000 employees. So I always tell everyone when they say, who do you work for? I work for ABM. It's the biggest company you've never heard of. So more than likely, this is the first time you're hearing about ABM, but we are a really large organization with a tremendously deep, talented roster. And so, you know, you can kind of see here, I'll just run through it. We were the #1 installer of EV in the US last year. We manage over 35 million square feet of mission critical. So that's data centers. Those are those big, Google, Meta, all those kind of folks who run those big centers. We do a lot of that work. We do a lot of microgrids. So 3 gigawatts is just as big as it sounds. It's just a tremendous amount of microgrid work. And lastly, the most important one here is that on average, we save our customers 30% on their total energy spend. And that's really what we're looking for here. So this is impossible for you to read, so I won't ask you to do it. I want to highlight 3 kind of keys here, right? On the org chart, the most important thing for you to realize is you are our bosses. You sit on top of our org chart, right? This project is driven by the school district. It is us, it is our job to make sure that you understand all the things that are available, the benefits and cons, and we'll run through all the different scenarios of this. But ultimately, it is the school's project. And that's really important. And I think that that's something that I want to make sure that everyone understands before you leave this. On our sales team, we're saying in the car, we've got 57 years of experience in this field. Between myself, Joe, and Brian, who couldn't be here, but he's my manager here in New Jersey as well. If you look on the other side of that, I mean, we've got hundreds of years of experience that we're pulling from, and those are the folks who would be working on this project. We've got a deep bench, we've got really smart, talented people, and again, I just think that that's such a benefit for the district. And then lastly, ABM, we have 2,000 employees in the state of New Jersey. We've got 270 of these energy projects that we've done with school districts and municipalities that have been completed over the last few years. We've done over $1 billion worth of these projects in the United States. And most importantly, should the school district elect to have a guarantee on the energy savings, we will 100% do that. And that essentially means if we tell you you're going to save $5 this year, and we save you $3, at the end of the year, we will write you a check for the balance. Now, what I always like to tell everyone is, I don't want you to do that, because I want you to trust the work that we're doing, and we want to be delivering the results to you. And so we don't want you to do that, but it is an option. It's something that you can choose to do. And again, if you do choose to do that, it is available to you here. So wrapping up, I just kind of want to talk about, it's been a rough, long year, good year, right? You had the referendum in March and it didn't go your way. That's when we really started working with Jerry and came in here and kind of started talking to him. And then, in September, you guys got a ROD grant, which was exceptional. We know about the other $1 million grant that's on top of that. In November, you get the mayor to pledge the additional $5 million. So you guys have done really great work over the last year. I think that really needs to be commended. And now we're here, right? So what are the next steps? How can we really help you as the district going forward? So a couple of things. One, any energy savings that are achieved through the work that's done in the ROD grant can be used to fund the ESIP project. So tying those 2 projects together in parallel is going to be beneficial, because you can take the energy savings from that project and can use those energy savings to do other things throughout the district that you wouldn't be able to. When we had first looked at this, Applegarth was, it's an issue, right? And so when we had originally looked at the scope of work that we thought we might be able to do here, we were like, okay, that's probably where most of the money is going to end up going, or most of the savings are going to go towards the projects that you have to do there. We don't have to do that now, which is fantastic, because now we can really focus on some of the stuff that we didn't think was going to fit within the budget originally. If and when you need to go for another referendum, we want to take as much scope out of that referendum right now. So you don't have to ask the taxpayers for as much as you would if you don't do this project. And then lastly, as we talked about, we think there are some opportunities here to do some revenue generation, EV charging, solar, and there's 2 ways to think about it. You can raise revenue, or you can lower your overall operating costs. It's kind of the same thing. But we know that there are some really good opportunities here on that project process. So, you know, closing, we're really excited about this opportunity. We really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us tonight. And, you know, based on the discussions that we've had with Jerry, you know, we fully believe that this could probably get approved for development, sometime this quarter. And we would hope, that that's the timeline that you all agree on. And so, you know, that, the process to get to kind of final acceptance, it, yeah, probably to develop, to get it to the point where we're going to have the funding in place, full scope of work approved by the state, every letter crossed, every I dotted, about 8 months. And that's kind of if we were to engage in the first quarter of this year.
Now, you also have, I mean, these are co-authored approaches, right? So it's not, you know, when we bring you and say, this is the project, we bring back recommendations. We identified this, we saw that, we noticed this, and this is kind of how it goes together. But ultimately, it's your decision, right? Your team's decision, your staff's decision on where the priorities are, how you want to do it, how you want to put it together. So it's a co-authored approach. So there's workshops, once we identify what that scope might look like and how it would benefit you. And we want to bring those back and discuss those. And so things will move in and out of a project until we get to a place where you decided that makes the right sense for us. That's a good fit as far as the scope of work. So it's not, I don't want you to get the wrong idea that, you know, that we just come and say, okay, here's the project, what do you want to do? Doesn't work like that. You know, it's as we go through this development process, we say, hey, we looked at this, it's going to look like a 40-year payback. You know, unless there's a problem with that, it's probably not the time to do that. Or we looked at this and the life cycle analysis of this project, that we rate the life of the asset, and you've got about another 10 years on that. Probably doesn't make sense to not put that into the project because it's still got a lot of life left in that piece of equipment as an example. So that's kind of how that works, if that makes sense.
I have a question.
Please,
Absolutely.
How do you make your money?
good question. We operate as a general contractor, right? So that's how we make our money. We drive down the cost of the goods and services and be able to bring those to you, and we oversee the project and see and install the work all the way through. So we act as a general.
So for example, if we needed to do all the HVAC work at the middle school and it was, I don't know, 7 million, don't quote me. I'm sure I'll be on Facebook. Don't quote me. It was a $7 million project. And you would agree. So you come in and say, well, the efficiency of not utilizing, you know, the old chillers and handlers and everything has to be changed. So you're gonna give us $7 million? Or no? That's my question.
No.
What's the process?
No. Okay, so once we decide, determine the scope of work, so if it makes.
Use that as an example.
Sorry, please?
Just use that as an example.
Okay, so it's a $7 million project. You have to secure financing for that $7 million.
Correct.
So you'll go out and get a municipal lease or revenue pledge, by whatever instrument you want to use financially to secure those $7 million. And we will oversee that process. We'll do all the permitting, I'll do all the engineering, make sure it's sized and you know, to the right specifications based on the load, make sure it's integratable with the existing assets, i.e. the controls. We do all of those things, and we boom it up there, put it on the roof and turn the wrenches and put that thing up and running, commission it and guarantee that the efficiency is going to be what it's going to be and the longevity is going to be the length of time that asset is going to run.
So what makes it advantageous for us to utilize you?
Good question. Here's the thing, if you're doing just a chiller, it's probably not advantageous to do me, to just use me. I'll tell you right now. If you're doing a holistic approach, where you're looking at everything in a district that uses, loses, or consumes energy or water, all those things, no one thing is gonna pay for itself. What we do is we say, okay, so we've got so much savings from lighting over here in this building. We've got so much savings from controls over here and optimizing the controls. We've got so much savings if we put in solar. We have so much savings for lighting. We have so much, and it's a cumulative number. And that's what we're guaranteeing. So on a don't quote me and.
Yeah, okay, you gotta say that.
But I'm gonna give you the same scenario. So say it's a $7 million project all in,
Mhm.
and we have a 30% savings. Those savings will guarantee that'll help offset that cost service and buy that debt down. Plus, you've got the ability to take it over a period of time, up to 20 years. Where in a traditional thing, the chiller went out.
Was $1 million.
Yeah, now I gotta come, where am I gonna come up with that? It's gonna come out of the general fund, or I have to get 3 bids, or have to hire somebody to
Mhm.
put it up there, get it running, and now you're out of pocket. With this program, you can take that debt service and carry it out over the life cycle of the asset over that 20-year period of time. So it's a much more budgetable, manageable, softer type of money.
It's like lease purchase.
Yes,
I'm just summing up.
yeah. Exactly. But I don't know what so excuse me if I'm being, but I don't know what level everybody understands what I'm saying.
No, I
I'll
understand.
probably give you more information than last.
I have a question for Mr. Tringale. Mr. Tringale, how many automated systems do we currently have in the school, do you know?
Well, every school has some sort of an automated system.
I'm talking about a mobile automated alert system or control
None,
system.
none.
We rely right now on, other companies.
Sending us an email.
Engineering firms, EFA, Johnson Controls.
Yeah.
Now I could easily tap in and change things if I needed to, or make adjustments,
That's what I mean. How many of
but
those?
not mobilely. In other words, I couldn't be driving along.
He
my
has to
car
be
and say, "I
on
wanna change it."
I got you.
We don't have.
You have to be on the grounds.
You have to
Yeah.
be in the building that you're trying to control.
Right, or I can call them and I could say,
Mhm.
okay,
Like
got
EFA.
that going on in the auditorium, you
Mhm.
can turn that on.
Okay.
But that's limited, that's not limited, but it's not as flexible as this, things like this, whether it's this or any other firm. Things like this enable us to actually be more proactive and to be able to see things from directly here without me having to call somebody, which I don't have to call somebody else because we don't need them, because we don't pay them.
Soft cops.
So a lot of different things come at us. Money that I to use towards these projects. So you're saving money, taking money you're saving to pay for these projects.
And we will quantify that in our analysis as well. We look at the soft costs, the hard costs, the operational savings, all of that stuff. We will evaluate that and make sure that's in our calculations.
I don't know the answer to this question, but if we decided to go with this company, wouldn't we have to do a 3-bid or bid process for another company
That's
that's?
that whole part, I think we'd have to talk to the law.
No.
And
No, the answer is no.
No?
You don't,
that-
you don't with this
Because they're
particular.
approved as a co-op through the state. Am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
We do that right now without purchasing.
Right, it's not like putting out a contract for.
Now, we, as the general contractor, will have to
Yeah.
procure
Correct.
the HVAC, the lighting, the.
Those have to go. to a
Those have to
big
go.
contract.
But they do.
As the general, and then they're cleared through the state with their oversight.
You also, I believe, when I spoke with Mr. Tague, you also not, if we wanted to, can provide the funding as well, correct?
We do. We have a program that we can bring money to the table to help do that through, and as a service model.
Mr. Tringali,
Yeah.
I have actually 2 questions. So the
Only
first
one,
one
only
is.
allowed one.
I think it's 1.5.
And raise your hand for the second one.
So when you started, you said, you use the savings from the operational budget and put them towards, the projects. So if you forget about the case that Dr. Chandy brought up about the settlement, if we just partner with you, in an ideal scenario, if we don't have any capital project planned for at that point of time, how do you work with the school? You talked about co-authoring, how does it, I'm trying to understand is, does a scenario exist where we don't need to finance something, but you're able to find that cost saving and get us some benefits? So just, are there those scenarios? Have you done such things?
Yeah.
Because that's how the presentation started to
Yeah.
caught my attention.
Yeah. I don't want you to misunderstand because that's a very good
I know
point.
that.
No, it's a good one. And I don't want you to feel misled either. I made up a great part of those 100 years of collaborative experience he's referring to, more than I care to say. However, it's been about 15 years since I've seen a project that pays for itself from 100% from
From
savings.
the operational. Okay.
So the majority of the time, we can save between 25 and 35%, 30% of your overall utility spend. So if you cumulatively say all of your campuses are spending X, that 30% the savings. Those are dollars you're currently paying the utility company or somebody else that you get to bring back in and pay yourself to help buy that debt service down. But you are gonna have to secure some funding, whether it be grants, whether it be, the solar, the state's got a great incentive for that. There's other types of things that we can bring money to the table to help source those. When we bake the cake and we say, here's what it looks like all together. If you take it one thing at a time,
It's not-
nothing's gonna stand alone. That's why it's a holistic approach. That's why I say there's a little bit of savings from lighting here. There's a little bit of savings from controls here. There's some operational advantages to having the ability to control. Those may be a little bit softer, but they still may exist and you can choose to accept those or not. I mean, whatever you want to put towards that, if you think there's a value there. Anything that you've already got slated now in the next 3 to 5 years, which is going to be a capital expenditure for replacing assets. We can take those assets, replace them today at today's dollars, free those dollars up to offset and redirect those into the debt service, right? So, and it then becomes manageable and budgetable over a period of time, a set period of time, to take all those things under one umbrella. It's kind of how we think about it. I'm not telling you how to run your business, right? But that's normally how we look to it. So, and that's how we do it. Hopefully that answers your question.
It does.
Because there's nothing that's
Lot of clarity.
100%
Thank you,
gonna
Don.
pay for itself. from
Right.
savings.
Lot of
Like right
clarity.
now, it doesn't exist anymore.
Can I ask a second?
Sorry, long answer, but I want to make sure.
So my next question is how, if we get into a partnership, do you guys get paid by the project that you're managing, or is it like a yearly rate? How does
Okay,
it work?
good question. So basically, our fee, including the cost to develop the project, is rolled into the overall project, right? So there, and as that, whatever that number is baked into that project. So we're not a long-term consultant, if you will, in that capacity. So we're project specific, but our projects are generally pretty sizable and they're all encompassing. So it works that way. There are opportunities for ongoing service contracts and other types of things, but if we set it up properly, your team won't need to call us to say, hey, I need to turn this on and turn this off. We want to give you control of your facilities. We want you to be able to run it.
What other, if any, schools in Middlesex County
Just read my mind.
have you guys been hired by?
I haven't done one in Middlesex County.
And
Monmouth, Ocean, New Jersey.
We can send you
I'm gonna have to get the list of.
the list of references.
you know what their average savings was?
They're averaging between 25 and 30%. Some a little bit more, some a little bit less. But whatever the number is, that's an average nationally that we posted up there.
Can you guys get me that?
Sure, we
Yeah.
can get you that, the averages, and here's what that's kind of a interesting question because, well, here's the average, don't misunderstand that. Right, I'm thinking it through in my head, and when I look at the different projects that we do, if their assets, meaning their equipment, things like that are relatively newer and are well maintained, there's not gonna be that big of a gap.
Mhm.
If they
So
weren't.
there's not as much
maintained,
savings
they're
because it's not as big.
Right, so it's a real hard, it's kind of, everyone's gonna be a little bit different. That's an average when you take them all across the board and say, okay, this is the average. But some are gonna be, I've had some as high as 45% energy savings. I've had some as little as 15% energy savings. But 10, 15% of what? That
Mhm.
overall number and that spend, that can be a lot of dollars redirected back into a program to help offset debt service. So it's kind of I'm not trying to be elusive in the answer, but I don't want to mislead you or give you a wrong one. So I always say 30% across the board. That's not true.
Well, and quite frankly, you have a really great operations team here. And so when we originally looked at this project, when we started looking at it, we were assuming it would be less than 30, just because of how well you guys do operate today. Now, that said, when you bundle that with the solar, with the EV charging, with grants and incentives and all, and the Apple Garth program, right? Maybe we do get up over 30. That would be fantastic. That's what we want to do. But we've looked at you and said, you're not our best client because you guys already operate the buildings really well. But there is still obviously opportunity here.
What are some of the large projects you've done with school districts?
You're gonna ask me, and I've had this territory for about 7 months now, so they just expanded so I don't wanna give you the wrong information. I'll have to go, we'll pull the
Okay.
references for you and get those to you.
Yeah, can we send those over?
Sure,
to-
be happy to-
Jerry has them. I just want to make sure that you all get them
Yeah.
first thing.
Yeah, we would all like them.
Okay,
But I don't wanna just sit up here. and
That's
throw
fine.
names out,
Yeah.
'cause that wouldn't be accurate. I'm a couple layers removed from the everyday operations of the facilities. I get the calls when something doesn't go right.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? All right, gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
really appreciate it.
Pleasure, next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Gotta present it, yeah.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one.
Well, live.
So whoever we choose to go with, you're,
We're live.
it's all. But it's a technical question, like, is this is there a term to it? Like, I know we approve co-ops all the time. Is there like a timeline to it? It's for a year? for 2
No, it's
years?
project-based.
Project-based, and they're basically an energy subcontractor. That's what
That's exactly what they are.
So it's an approved contractor that we can go to for bids. No.
No.
No,
What they would do is I like to use the HVAC
They
only
are,
because it's,
they are a glorified facility.
yeah, that's exactly what they are.
Okay.
So that's why I asked him, how do you make your money? He makes his money by overseeing as a GC.
Right.
Whereas when we say we do something in-house means, we go to, the golf course.
Jerry's the-
Jari he's our so the project manager,
Even
he
all
goes,
The grants and the energy savings that we've gotten over the years.
so basically it's like
We've
paying
done the people
someone to
who
do
do
what he
that.
does,
no, because it's more of they're assessing all of,
but then they
There
want to sell you some of their products. Basically, that's how they make their money. Yeah, because they're selling you their energy products.
Well,
They're implementing it to utilize things that we
well,
maybe
it's
don't
making,
have.
it's making you be more efficient, so you save the money so that you pay back
They're
your
working with
debt.
the general contractor to install, whatever is they're making, make recommendations on to make it more energy efficient.
Right,
Right, but for example, then they would utilize their company to hire the people to replace the windows.
yeah.
They would have their subcontractors that would
Right.
install the
Whereas we
windows
could do
or
that
would
ourselves.
install.
We could do that ourselves.
Oh, sure.
No.
Hey, don't folks.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, everybody.
Carol, Jackson, you, team from Honeywell, their proposal.
How is
Nice
everything
to meet you.
tonight?
Good, how are you?
Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes, you can pass those out. And what's our best place for our team to sit? Should we have?
Wherever they like.
Gather here or right over here?
Whatever you like.
Okay. Sure. And
Thank you very much.
oh, and also the other thing, because you're considering a co-op for this, one of the things that I always prepare when we're doing a co-op is like a presentation of references. So this is just like some case studies and references. You need to take a look at.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Here you
Now,
go.
this is what we need.
Navigate. And so how much time do we have? I know.
20 minutes, is that good for you? If you need more?
Sure. I think our
We can
presentation.
speak to Ms. Laura about allowing us to go over.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot in your meeting? You have a lot to present in your meeting?
No. Oh, are you talking about the dollar?
No, I'm saying-
For personnel.
Yeah,
No, there's not.
Go over how much?
As long as you want
4 hours?
An hour? No, we'll just talk an hour.
And you have to do that next one without me.
All right, well, thank you so much for having us. I don't know if there's any introduction you need to do. I guess you're already.
I'll let you do this. Caroline Jackson from Honeywell and her team, and Emily, Sean, Paul Peters.
And Jerry called us about 3 weeks ago to say that you're interested in looking at using ESA in your district, Energy Savings Improvement Program, to help address some needs. And understandably, we got a little overview of that. We did a utility analysis and we visited 3 of the schools just last Monday. I think it was just a week ago. So we'll just get a little used to this. Does it matter which way I point it? There we go. So I just want to introduce our team. It's one of the unique things about Honeywell is that your team is a New Jersey-based team. And with me today, I have my regional manager, Sean Yates.
Hi, Sean Yates. I've been with Honeywell for about 20 years. Worked with a lot of school districts throughout New Jersey. Happy to be here tonight to talk to you guys about how we can help you. happy to answer any questions you might have. Ultimately, we want to make sure you feel comfortable that we understand the process and can help you through this.
And then I also have our solutions development lead engineer, Paul Peters.
Hi, my name is Paul Peters. I've been with Honeywell for about 17 years. I've been dealing with the ESIP Energy Savings Improvement Program since its inception, almost 13 years ago.
And Emily Lee.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I've been with Honeywell for 3 years. I am also the engineer, and I will be assisting Paul in developing the project.
And then Tim Laverick is our lead project manager. So he has a team in New Jersey that works for him.
Hi, Tim Laverick, been at Honeywell for 12 years, doing New Jersey ESIP projects that whole time. I've worked on a few projects in the area, Old Bridge schools, East Brunswick schools. Now I oversee the delivery team for New Jersey. Excited to share our experience with you guys tonight.
And my name is Caroline Jackson. I'm business development, and my job is to help teach about ESIP. And then I go with my districts through the whole process from the beginning and learning about them through the selecting the projects, all the help with navigating the BPU, the Board of Public Utilities, working with your financial advisors and bond counsel and how you would fund a project like this, and any curriculum enhancement or anything you do in that way, working with that as well. So we also have other people that are on this list here. There are more that actually help, but we have people that help with finance, people that help with safety. As you go through the process, you may or may not meet them, but they're back there helping us out. So today we did our introductions. I'm going to take you through some sample projects, a little bit about ESIP. I know you just had a presentation, so I don't want to go too much into it. I'm sure you got a little bit of an education, but I'll take you through a little bit about ESIP. And then what we saw from looking at your utility bills, what we see is possibly the project that could happen here from Monroe Township Schools, and how we implement just a little bit. Have to really keep on task here. So Energy Savings Improvement Program. The one thing I just want to go back to, just because I love this, there's so many acronyms, so call me.
We live in acronyms.
Call me out if I say too many acronyms, but you just need to know Energy Savings Improvement Program, Energy Savings Plan is what we would do for you. And ESCO is an energy services company, and it goes on and on, but you get the idea. So ESIP is basically a way that school districts can utilize future energy savings, rebates and grants to fund a larger project that you can't get a referendum for, or that you can't get under capital. So it really is a great way for districts. And I know you've had some challenges in the past few years trying to get referendums through. This is a great option. And one of the things that a lot of people will say, wait a minute, it's too good to be true. It's paid for with energy savings. And when they finish, they're like, we really were not sure. We didn't know. How could this work? But they were so happy and they couldn't believe all the things we took care of for them that they were doing on a regular basis. We're like a kind of a SWAT team that comes in, helps you with this project, and then we leave you with something that has energy savings that are ongoing and support you with that. So we follow the BPU process. There's a third-party review, which is an independent engineer that will check our work, check our calculations. You're not alone with this. The Board of Public Utilities will help you. The third-party review will help you, and we will help you with that. The basis of the program is that we're taking the first blue circle is your budget for, you have about $1.9 million in energy costs we saw from your bills. I don't know your maintenance costs right now that would be allocated or affected by this, but if it was 300,000, you're going to reduce your maintenance costs a little bit. You're going to reduce your electric costs a lot, and gas and oil, and you're going to use that savings to pay off the loan. Whether that's a 15-year project or 20-year project, that's to be determined when we do an investment grade audit and go over that with you. But do you guys understand the basis? So it's taking that energy savings and investing in. So I think stories tell the best, explain the best. So here are two case studies that we have in your packet, as well as highlighted here. For Old Bridge Township, we were able to fund a $15 million project there. We did lighting, we did building management systems and controls, boiler replacements, building envelope improvements, a lot of rooftop unit and retro commissioning. Sometimes we're fixing something that can be fixed, sometimes we're replacing new because it's old and past its useful life. There we were able to do roof replacement, and they did do a solar power purchase agreement. Again, that was a really nice project. We're very happy, a great reference for you to talk to learn about the process and what they liked about it. And anything you want. Anything else about Old Bridge or East Brunswick? Tim actually works as a project manager on both those projects before he.
Yeah, both projects were very successful. Old Bridge, their focus was getting a lot of boilers replaced. So we did a lot of that, older buildings, older systems. So that was a focus of the project. East Brunswick, a little bit different. They had a big focus on upgrading their building management system and air quality. So we put in hundreds of CO2 and VOC sensors throughout the district in all their classrooms. So that was a big driver there. But yeah, both, big successful projects that got a lot of upgrades done for the district.
May I ask the time frame? How long ago did you do this with them?
Old Bridge was 2018.
Okay,
East Brunswick was 2019, 2020.
just curious, thank you.
Yeah,
Do you know,
around that.
do you recall how Old Bridge generated their $8.4 million for the project? 15, I'm sorry, 15.2.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say, I mean, the LED lighting is a big driver of the savings.
No, how did they raise the money for their
Oh, so
projects? Did
there's-
they get a grant or was it?
No,
Yeah, it
were they
was
lease purchase?
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was at least-
So there's two options for funding. One is a lease purchase, which the rates have been a little higher lately. The others are a funding bond, which that's a little more costly upfront, but less rate. So the financial advisors are very, I don't know if you have Phoenix, do you use Phoenix advisors, financial advisors? So I think I did mention I was kind of.
God bless.
I think they worked with you a little bit with planning on the referendums and such, but they'll help look at it and lay it out. We do all the cash flows and energy savings. We give the sample to them and they take it and they look at it and we'll like give you advice on exactly.
What's
how
the
to
best
find
way
it.
to go?
Yeah, but we work with them all the time,
Okay.
back and forth.
And we also, so in addition, sorry, one second,
Yeah,
Carol.
yeah.
So in addition to the energy savings, we will go out and try to find options or ways to reduce or offset the cost for grants, rebates, all that as well. So we've had a lot of success, like these programs where I'm sure they included pay for performance, right? So pay for performance was the rebate program in New Jersey that was available. That's since changed over the past 2 years. So there's a new program that's in place. It's called Engineered Solutions through the PSE&G utility.
Or JCP.
Or JCP&L, right? And that's still coming together, those programs, but we're like on the cusp of that. We stay very much in tune with what's happening there so that we can bring that to you as well.
Right, so for Monroe, here's what we saw as, in our, looking at your referendum, looking at the different, programs you've looked at, what Jerry and Dominic shared on our site visits. I think your program would be, a great opportunity for LED lighting, looking at control system upgrades, your older control systems, which, are in need of upgrading. That's like one of those things that's not seen, but very important. Boiler replacements in the schools, some schools of similar ages are all going to be coming up for replacements at the same time. Building envelope is very important, especially with air quality being so important, by making sure your windows and doors and your insulation between the roof and the ceiling are tight. It is less air you need to condition, and it just reduces humidity, a lot of the problems. It always ends up being one of the top, payback items, believe it or not. It's with less cost. A lot of HVAC mechanical needs, we have rooftop units, fan units, mini splits, all aging out. And what we do with the energy savings plan is we take an inventory of everything, look at everything that you could possibly do. That goes into the energy savings plan. And then we select and prioritize with you based on the cost and the savings. It's a balancing act to bring the program together. You also do have the ability with the legislation in New Jersey to do 15% of your project with non-energy savings. So if you need a project on security or an IT, or someone needs new internet, someone wants to do emergency generators, you're already running a project, we could expect that and bid that for you and fit it in the program, depending what other priorities are there. Just something that's really to think about. Again, there are lots of things we do. Solar PPA, part of the energy savings plan is to look and identify if renewables are an option for you. I have a little more on that later. And there are lots of different things including our energy education enrichment program, which I'll go over later. But we don't know yet, so I'm not going to go too much into this. So one of the things we do know is we did take your utility bills. We calculated them out. We did an energy use index for each of the schools. Green is good, red has opportunity for savings. So you don't need to understand all this information on this crazy graph I did, but I'm very proud of it, actually.
It's very lovely.
Yeah, right? Well, it just shows you that you do have an opportunity to save, and this is a good opportunity for you to move forward. You have some schools that are in the lower quartile, we can move them up. Some of the green ones, we can maybe get up a little further. But again, we don't know exactly how that's gonna happen, with lighting, some with scheduling, some with advanced control strategies. So,
That all gets figured out during the energy.
yeah,
savings.
that all gets, but again, it's my like, the kind of first look at everything, and it's very, very exciting. So again, if we were gonna do a sample project for Monroe Township Schools, based on what you just looked at the energy bills. I also, you'll see in your little packet of information, I took your school and I sorted everything on the second page here. I sorted based on your energy use, and that's how I use that with some benchmarks to say, you could be between a $7.5 to $14 million project. Again, that's benchmarks, but that's taking what you're using now in energy, saving 30%, saving 40% if you went out longer term and you did a PPA, and where you sit compared to some of your peers in terms of the projects we were able to do for them. It's a little off because maybe a project 5 or 7 years ago, utility bills have increased so much in the last 3 years that like, you're gonna benefit from that, and you're gonna see even more savings than, we saw before, because there's cost of things have gone up, but also the energy costs have gone up. So when we save more. So we think there would be LED lighting, some rooftop unit replacements. We know you have a lot of AON units that are old, boilers, cooling, air handling units, building management. Again, this will be your project. You'll identify the options and we'll work with you to determine what fits in the project. Any questions on that? Because, does that make sense? Okay. The next is solar. So we take the base project we find for you, and then we see how can we make it bigger or better? How can we invest more into your schools? And I did look at the JCP&L, which is also First Energy, solar accommodation map. It looks like all your schools have an opportunity from the map, as long as it's current. We look for the red is there's not opportunity, the yellow there's a defined opportunity, and then the green is saying you have unlimited opportunity. So part of the energy savings plan would be looking at the roof conditions, looking if there's any land, finding out if they're even interested in being solar PPA, and having that. So, and then determining what it could add. So I just brought a project back to another client. We did a $7 million project. They could only do solar on one school because it was their newest roof. They weren't ready to do roofs on the other schools. So it was going to be a $7 million project without solar and an $8.5 million with solar. And they're like, yes, we wanted solar because we can get 5 boilers and 25 unit ventilators or whatever they were getting for that. So we'll come back with different options that you can really make your decisions of how you want to invest these savings that we're going to find for you. So, and then the next way, again, Sean touched on it, is the rebates, incentives, and grants. We look at as much as we can find for you. And what I've loved the last few years, I was able to get everyone that was in an energy savings plan and we had identified and worked on things. We were able to get them in that SSB program for ventilation and generated almost $30 million worth of additional grants in that program. We also looked at the prescriptive and custom for JCP&L and PSC&G. Those are easy, no brainers. The direct install and energy services are in a little transition. We are fighting and helping and hoping that they get those together because we want to bring more value to our districts. Energy enrichment, it's one of my favorite parts. I'm a mom. I did take some time off. I've worked for Honeywell since I graduated college, but I had some time off and worked a lot with my schools, did visioning, things like that. Everybody wants to learn about what they're going to do when they grow up. And if they can have an idea in middle school, they find is the most you get the most interest to go into STEM careers and things like that. So we've designed a lot of different programs, some more geared toward elementary, like some curriculum. That was a project we did at Rumson where we taught the teachers about solar and they had a workshop with their STEM group. And then the other one was a solar ribbon cutting where the high schoolers organized the presentation for both Hunterdon School District, solar on both their buildings. And another one I had where a girl needed to have 25 hours of internship time. So she came and she did some energy audits. She took our local government energy audits and helped decipher them. She came to some surveys. And when she called me, she went to her professor and said, "You're not going to believe it. I got my job." She's like, "I used all the things I learned, going to presentations with you and stuff." She came to a presentation like this. It was so neat, Nira. So there's lots of things we'll do and look to help and bring some additional, interesting things besides, just energy savings, bring back to the school. So, next thing is implementation, and I don't know that I'm coming up in my time, but implementation is a very important part of the project, of the process and the project. And we've divided it into like 4 sort of phases, kind of identify with the people. I'm really here for all the phases when I work with a school district, and like kind of the ESOP, energy savings, to the ESCO selection. That's like where you define your goals, choose your ESCO. And I know you're looking at co-op, but once we're chosen as an ESCO through an RP or co-op, we follow the same very strict process through the BPU. It's all the same. We do the energy savings plan, we follow all the steps, the third-party review, just so you know. And like I'm saying, I'm guiding and helping through all that. The only difference is there are a few, I think I have it here. There are a few steps with a co-op that you have to add. You have to advertise your selection of the co-op for 10 days, and there are certain forms to provide. So I have that all outlined. Whoops. Sorry. So there's ESCO selection, then there's the solution development, and Paul would be like the leader of that phase. That's looking at all your needs, bringing up, getting all the ideas down for the solutions that we would implement, and you know, just identifying rebates and grants and things of that nature. Then we turn it over to Tim's team, who is responsible to design, the procurement and the construction. And then we hand it off to our measurement verification team, which is, this program is guaranteed savings. So that would be where we're measuring and show you the guarantee.
Does it make sense to take a pause here? There's a lot of information here. We just want to make sure if you have any questions about the implementation process or how we interact with the district throughout the program, any questions around that? I mean, I know Tim could speak to potentially how we do the construction. We obviously want to make sure we don't interrupt any of your educational programs, et cetera. So being flexible. Tim, if you want to add or.
Yeah, we have a lot of experience working in schools, and we don't just save all the work for the summer. We'll work second shift. We structure our bids that way. So the lighting company will come in after hours, do the work. You know, the next day you won't even know that we were there. We'll work with the schools on any access requirements, and safety. We have a strong focus on safety. You know, we're doing a rooftop unit or something, it's always after hours or in the summer when the building's unoccupied. And just making sure all our subcontractors are following our strict safety rules. You'll have somebody from Honeywell here on site when the work's going on. Any issues come up, you know, we'll be here, you know, working with you guys to solve those issues. Yeah, any questions? You know,
I just have one comment, or actually it's a question. So when you look at the state RFP versus the co-op selection, would you provide your analysis of which direction to go in? Like, for example, so the other company that did the presentation only discussed the concept of co-op.
Right.
They didn't discuss the other concept, but I see here that you have the opportunity for either.
Yeah, so we respond to both, and you know, it's funny, we didn't do a lot of co-op work until COVID. COVID really changed things because people were stuck and they didn't want a lot of people in the buildings, and they wanted sometimes move faster. They had problems that needed solving and they needed it quicker. So the RFP, you have a number of different companies that come in. Then you have to do a selection. There's time and energy that goes into taking them through that and going through all that. With the co-op, you're selecting, almost like you select an architect or engineer, because we're gonna be like your expert, taking you through the process, the same as if you did RFP. All the subcontracts and all the contracts are bid. So you still have a bidding process and a pricing process. It's just that you're selecting your architect or engineer or your ESCO. It's just a different way to procure the same thing.
And then we don't have to worry about the concern about the bidding process, because once we select the co-op, that's your problem.
Yeah.
That's not our problem.
And it's all of our problem. Like
And I don't mean in a negative way. I mean, it's not our concern about the, you know, who's the lowest and recommendation, and then look into it. You handle that because
all the New Jersey public procurement laws. We're very familiar. We'll ask you if we have a room to have a pre-bid. We'll ask to have access to the buildings. We'll have to take, you know, different vendors through, but we'll handle all that and I'll manage all that for you. The difference is the time we have to put together as part of our energy savings plan. There's a section, because we've had, let me just go ahead a little bit here. We've had 6 different co-ops just in the last 2 to 3 years. And for each one, we were selected under Omnia, under the Energy Solutions category. And for each one, we have been approved through the BPU, all of these. So we've been through it like 6 times with the BPU. I have another one right now that's going through. So we're very familiar. We also utilize local finance notice 2011-10, which is for national co-op, which that's what I was saying. You have to have a resolution when you select. Then they'll advertise for 10 days and then, you include the required forms, we'll make sure you have everything. But yeah, we're responsible for everything. It's a beauty. And what a lot of districts sometimes struggle with, they're like, well, wait a minute, that we don't have time to do this whole RFP. I don't know if we can do, no, we'll do that. That's our job. You just have to say you like what we wrote for the RFP. Your attorney will have to like sign off that it's good. And then we manage the whole process with you. We bring you back like evaluation of, your committee then can decide usually the lowest rate, the lowest KWH rate, but it's kind of like, it's all in there. It's very turnkey. The only additional cost you have is to hire the third-party engineer, which is going to check our work. And that's a required process from the BPU. And there's about 8 firms that do it all the time. And they just check that our energy calculations are right, our hours make sense, our efficiencies and the equipment we selected match the calculations we did to sort of why they offer it as a choice to do a guarantee or not. New Jersey is partly because you do have this third-party engineering review. So, and about 50% of the districts choose a guarantee, 50% are comfortable with the way it is without going through
That
extra
cost of
service.
the engineer would be our cost.
That one cost, right?
Cost wise, it's minimal in the grand scheme of things, honestly. I mean, I
I
don't,
think I would say like for school district, 15,000,
Yeah.
something around there. Yeah, it's just to check the work, right? But it's.
That's a requirement.
Yes,
It
it's a
is,
requirement.
yeah.
It's a requirement. And you put a request for quote and you'll get competitive quotes.
Right. And that would be that's the way we handle our regular quoting process.
Yeah, and we can also like, we can tell, I'll give you a list of 10 that do it all the time. Like
Okay.
some of them don't do it a lot and they're a lot more expensive, but there's a bunch of people that do it all the time.
Okay.
So let me just see if there's anything else. I tried to lay out your project. I think that you could do some work, just, anticipating your questions by the end of the summer, like lighting. So that's the benefit. If you go through the RFP process, you're pushing it out 2-3 months. If you go co-op, you could possibly work at the end of the summer into next fall, you get your savings quicker. And then you could do your mechanical work. You're in a perfect place to do bids and be doing work next summer for the bigger work. Again, just talking about, we've had these reviewed. They go through the New Jersey Board of Utilities process. Again, and this is sort of wrapping up, but I've worked with this team now for 5-6 years this time around. Like I said, I've been with Monroe probably 20 years, but I took some time off. And these are my projects from the last 2 years that have worked with me and Paul and Tim and Emily, doing workshops, talking about solutions, really getting in there. And I think you'll find that people are very happy with their work and we really enjoy what we do. And hopefully that we can bring this to you as well. We have a lot of experience in New Jersey. And
Omnia is in that particular issue, that particular instance for these, was the co-op company that
so
you
no,
utilized?
in this group, Bloomingdale, Burlington, and Egg Harbor selected through Omnia.
Okay.
Actually, North Hunterdon originally selected through an RFP years ago, and it was like their 3rd round.
Okay.
And so they were able to do a phase 2, and then they selected another grant project through Omnia.
Okay.
And Clearview was an RFP and Swedesboro was an RFP. We're very competitive and we do them all the same.
No, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you.
and, schools like North Hunterdon, we're very proud of them where they come back. We do multiple phases for them over and over again, because obviously we're doing something right for them. So
Yeah.
you speak to them.
All right, and then the other thing that the other company presented is the same thing with you have the option with financing of the 15 or the 20 years, correct?
Yes, so
Okay.
one of the technologies that's needed to go to 20 years is combined heat and power. That's a green technology that takes less expensive gas and makes electricity, but that process makes a heat, and that heat can then be put into supplement your domestic hot water. It has to be a certain type of load, has to be an all year round load, and we can size it small enough or big enough depending
Gotcha.
on the need, but it qualifies for that additional
5 years.
5 years of financing.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah,
And in terms of financing, I know Caroline touched on financial advisors, like we're happy. We do have a global financing group within Honeywell too that can help through that process. A lot of districts have their own financial advisor. They prefer to use the financial advisor and we work with them. So however, we can do either, but just know that.
So you offer the opportunity if we wanted to, and if we don't want to, we just utilize who we've utilized.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So when it comes to financing, so if we were just to say, we went through a plan and the agreement was a guaranteed $500,000 in energy cost savings a year, our goal would be to potentially find financing over a period of time that would cost us $500,000 a year.
It'll be a wash.
And then,
Yeah.
net out at a zero cost over 15, 20 years, whatever, to achieve the projects that we collectively determine.
Yeah.
That would be the ideal situation, or even come in with a greater savings in our
Positive
loan
cash
costs or
flow.
whatever.
Which would be nice, because then we'd have extra instead of just.
And I didn't put a cash flow in, but the cash flow basically says your energy savings, your, the cost, including the financing, and then a net, and the net has to be better than zero, right? Sometimes, like North Hunterdon, when they didn't do LEDs in their original project, it was so long ago. So when they did their second project, when they did LED lights, they were gonna do new ceilings. But then at the last minute, they're like, you know what, skip the ceilings, but we need the extra cash.
We need the
flow."
money.
So they took the money and we skipped the ceiling, so they still have the ground lines between their ceiling tiles, but. Sometimes you have to let it go, so, no, it was fine, I mean, if that was not, that's a job, it's just not necessary.
Right.
It wasn't necessary, but yeah, so, please, if there's any questions, please reach out, I guess that you can contact, I didn't put my number or anything, I'm so bad, I should have, but I can give you a card.
Your presentation was excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I really am very proud of what we do, and I love what we do, and it's so great in this
On
time.
page 15, your information.
What?
I think on page 15, this is your number?
Oh, no, that's just a sample BPU approval. Yeah, no, that's Michelle Rossi, but I'm really, here, I'm just gonna give you my card. So if you have any questions, as we move along, if there's anything you need, please.
Thank you very
please
much.
reach out. And I still did nervous presentation, it doesn't matter how.
No, you did a fabulous job. You did a nice job.
You just wanna, make sure you anticipated needs and questions. and-
No, it's good. It's very.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Let me ask a question.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson, what does a typical working relationship with a district look like if we were to go ahead with you guys? How often are you meeting our administrators? Just,
Yeah.
can you give us an idea?
Yeah,
as to
sure.
how to
So-
use it?
One of the things I kind of have in here, let me just look, because I have something I wrote already. We do different workshops. So like the first workshop will be a kickoff workshop, and it's kind of in there, yeah, kickoff workshop
the first thing
in
right there,
February.
yeah.
And that's where, like, I right now told you what I think you might need. That's where you tell us what you really need, and what's most important to you, and what's driving what's your pain point, so how can we help? Then we go, Paul really has a very specific process. He wants to look and survey, and we'll get an inventory of everything you're building. He has to see it and then we'll come back and we'll show you what we saw. In addition, there'll be a financing workshop at some point. There'll be a power purchase agreement or solar workshop. Again, sometimes I go to board meetings and do it. Sometimes it's just with the administration or facilities. You tell us what you want. Some people are very involved, some people are not as much. So for Bloomingdale, I'm on the Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting for, 5 or 10 minutes. Their project is in process right now, and I give the update every week of what we've done, what we're gonna do the next time. I don't have Victor join, that's a project manager. He does the update with the facilities department. So again, we'll work to whatever works for you. And then the curriculum and education enhancement, you probably have specialists maybe there's a STEM team or whoever you think, and we'll brainstorm the different ideas that we can bring you. And we have to focus, we have to pick like 1 or 2 things that will really work and be successful. There's a lot of ideas, so we'll hear what you're doing already and see how we can do that. So,
In terms of, I was just gonna say during, leading up to and during construction, in terms of meetings and kind of communication, we'll meet with you as often as you want, or as spread out as you want.
Almost like once every 2 weeks, something like that.
Bi-weekly meetings, with whoever wants to attend, just kind of go over the project and updates. And we'll also send out a weekly update on Fridays. So the project manager will send out an update to whoever wants to be included on the email. This is what we did this week, pictures, we installed lights in classroom X, Y, and Z. And then here's the look ahead for the next 2 weeks. We plan to be in the high school doing boilers, next week and kind of a look ahead schedule so people can see what's going on in the buildings and how the project is progressing during construction.
And the cost of all of that is incorporated into the cost of the project, including the curriculum piece.
Yes.
And that has a regular cadence, no matter what the cadence of the project is, right?
Correct. And really, I mean, one of the things I was thinking about when thinking about this project, knowing that you guys probably have a lot of built up needs right now as you've been going through the referendums. And so just thinking that during the investment grade audit phase is really the most impactful time to get students involved, like, because if they can come to a presentation, if they could help with a energy audit look, or, there's different things that kids could do or learn or see during this time when we're actively working in buildings. I mean, obviously during construction isn't the time to have them involved, and they could see a report or see a whatever, but there's so much we can do now with Teams and Zoom meetings and stuff. It would be really neat.
Did you do that in your recent projects with the North Hunterdon School and?
So North Hunterdon, we did the solar, we planned the solar PPA, and then we participate on going March 1st for their it's like their work experience day where they have all different tables, and we'll talk about what we do. I'm bringing, Emily's gonna come, I hope. I've got about 5 people that I was like, oh my gosh, they all said yes. So it's like, even Wayne said yes. So we just participate in different ways. They have 2 large high schools. So, yeah, they were, last year for some reason didn't happen, but yeah, I'm going on March 1st for that, So,
Even though they're sales, we're all engineers. We all have
Imagination.
So I am too, yeah, it's so crazy that, my physics teacher was like, they need women engineers. I mean, I don't know, and I was like, well, okay, I'll go. So, I, became an engineer, and it's so funny now that, how much it's given to me in terms of even be able to take off work and be home with my kids, and then be able to come back and like step right back into it. Nothing changed much except for efficiencies got better. We do a lot more solar now. So it's able to catch right back up. So,
Thank you so much, truly.
yeah.
Excellent.
Well, please, if you have any questions, reach out. We really hope to have the opportunity to work with you. It seems like there's a lot of really good opportunity here with this program for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I do this for you, for John.
Sure.
Guys, we have a third.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a
Thank you,
third
Mr.
agenda
Miller.
item that we're gonna pay for, so real quickly, we'll let Zach explain about a bus app that we may be interested in.
Have a good night.
How are you doing?
No, I'll just say thank you.
Yeah, so I'll just say quickly, so the bus app has been a conversation that we've had on more than one occasion. I asked Mr. Morale to reach out to various different companies and to see where we're at, just have a baseline, an idea of the implementation as well as the idea of the overall cost.
Sure. So we spoke with Mrs. Kathy McDonald and her team at over at the transportation office, and we were kind of looking at some of the opportunities the district would have, potentially increase the improve the experience for our parents. And one of the topics that we had looked at is finding ways to track the busing systems for parents so they can see where the bus is at any moment of time. We could track students entering and leaving the bus, they call it turnstile. And for obvious reasons, that would bring some significant utility to the parents. What we learned was that our fleet here, we have 74 buses in our fleet, and they are equipped with GPS tracking services that help, our administration find out what's going on at all times for purposes of student safety and efficiency. These bus tracking systems obviously rely on GPS services. So the first question that they ask when surveying various companies is what current GPS systems do you have? Because what we've learned is the user is the parent. What they do is they download an app, and there's a lot of different companies that can do this, but they download an app and it syncs up with our fleet, which then can push information out to the parents. There is an administrative governance to this, obviously, to help keep the information updated and flowing. The need of the tracking company is to tap into our existing or non-existing GPS systems. As I mentioned, we do have a GPS system equipped in our transportation vehicles, and the organization that we use is called Zonar. The organizations that we have been dealing with, primarily the ones that are the leaders in the industry, the first question they always ask is, well, we have to find out immediately if we can mesh with your GPS systems, and that's something that they can't answer over the phone or through a pitch. Basically, the challenge that a lot of these companies have is that the firmware or the app or the parent side of it updates so frequently, sometimes the GPS hardware doesn't always mesh. So there's a significant amount of oversight and governance, and that was kind of the minutia of what we were looking at as far as the practicality of it. There is a cost associated with this service, and the prevailing about average cost that we learned most of these companies offer is around $5,000 per month. And then obviously they want you to commit to a full year. You can go to a 10-month or a 12-month, and that's usually how they work. Obviously, all of these things can be deconstructed and looked at as a needs basis, but that's the general number you're looking at. So it comes to roughly a little over $50,000 a year as a potential expense for the district. It's tech driven. They did advise us that there would be probably some support from our technology staff regularly to help, to help service this. But it is something that is used in smaller districts and in municipal or urban districts on occasion when there's more public busing and things like that. They did express some challenges with the square mileage that Monroe is, and kind of the various variables that can sometimes impact our day to day. But it is a software that is used. I know a lot of college campuses use it, resorts use it, and there are many companies that have now tapped into this market as GPS technology has become more readily accessible to individuals and school districts. So that is where it's at. There are smaller companies that I'm sure we could look at that could offer us maybe more niche products. But that could, there obviously comes some challenges with technology and support systems and things like that. So that's what we would have to decide is if this is something that we want to look at. In the discussion with the transportation department, we would look at cost feasibility and whether or not this is something that the district feels is important and prioritized. But I think it's important for the community to know that we are looking at this as an option. And, we're listening to any feedback that they may have as to how we can improve our system.
I have a question, Jack. That 5,000 a month is for the entire fleet to be monitored, correct?
Yeah, that was based, let me just pull it up here so I can speak. This is from one particular company that has multiple clients in New Jersey and the Northeast. Of course, I had it pulled up.
Well, before you answer that,
Yes,
what I
sir.
want to ask you was, I think I would assume, and maybe it's wrong with me to assume, but most parents, as I do, have on all my children's phones, 360. That's one app that's available. I think in the grade schools, young kids, not all of them have a phone, obviously. So would there be a significant savings if we just equipped?
We talked about that today. We talked about just the elementary schools.
Yeah, just the elementary schools, and because I don't think the middle school and the high school children would have a problem being monitored by their parents on the bus with their 360.
Well, it's not so
It's
much,
free, really.
but it's not so much of tracking your kid, it's tracking the bus.
Well, if
So,
your kid is on the bus.
well, but a lot of it is, a lot of the complaints that come into transportation, they field a lot of calls in the morning and the afternoon. Where's the bus? The bus is late. Why is the bus late?
Oh, I
What
see.
time is the bus coming? So this is, you have your
The bus
phone and you
itself.
see where the bus is.
Then you can go outside.
Then
on the bus.
then the students that get on have to have a swipe card, so that's an additional cost too, that you have to figure out. They have to have a swipe, or once they swipe their card, then on your app, it shows your kid on that bus.
So, yes, but I know what you're asking. So so they did quote us per bus. So if we were to come back, give us a quota at 50 buses or something, they would be able to offer that. My understanding, and again, I don't want to speak I'm speaking for Ms. McDonald today because she met with us today. And then in our discussions about this, my understanding would be for us to do something like that, we would have to designate buses specifically for elementary. And we would equip those buses and not the rest of them in order to kind of optimize the cost effectiveness of that. Because, that was the thing we had spoken about. Many parents do track via devices, but my son doesn't bring a phone with him to school.
So I think what might be practical is for purposes of this conversation, I think if the committee wanted to move it forward for us to further this conversation, which I think could be valuable, we'd have to also look at, would we need, some of the companies did share that they actually have a designated individual. They actually hired a person who does this and this is their job. So that could be another cost of a starting salary, plus health insurance. Not saying we shouldn't do it, just saying we want to have all the information. So we just started having this conversation. So if the committee wanted us to, we could have further conversations, look at other companies, make sure that they can
And many
match
of the
with our
companies
system.
will tailor a proposal for us.
Correct.
You know, if we wanted to take a deeper dive. And there are other companies that do specialize in, you know, districts like our sprawling districts, as we
Right.
would call them, with multiple institutions throughout. And again, this is, for purposes of information, what we learned is that we do have GPS, software on our buses, as we know. The challenge would be, can we tap into that? Or would we have to re-equip buses with
Correct.
different types? So if the cost difference wasn't as significant as I thought, if they had to come in and equip us with new GPS, but it is different. There would be an upcharge for that. And this would be a recurring cost. So it's like a subscription service. And then all of our parents would have to download their app, which would be owned by that company. Which again, and then there would be a tech service in conjunction with transportation. And we have not had those conversations with technology yet, but that would be something that he would, I don't speak to Mr. Feldman, obviously, but most likely there would be some sort of designation, part-time or full-time capacity to help run this.
Right. So they're good questions, because this was a good question.
Yeah, we learned a lot, for sure.
Yeah, and this has been brought up, and it's something we didn't want to just, we want to move forward with it if the committee agrees that it's something we should further really look into. But at least we have an idea. That was the point of presenting it this evening, to just present the idea at somewhat of a cost.
If I may, Mr. Tufano, so I'm glad we are having the conversation. I think that we have to start having this conversation, and then eventually we look at whether or not we can afford it. But I think I would be amiss if I don't mention one of the vendors at the NJSB.
Yeah, we reached out to him.
The right spot is the company's name, I think.
Yeah.
I don't remember talking about a GPS on the bus. I thought his idea was based around installing a phone on every bus, one phone. So I was just wanted to throw it out there because.
It would serve as a similar purpose. It would be
And it was
GPS.
per child cost, I believe. It was per student cost of $5.
We
or
weren't able
something.
to, he didn't provide a proposal yet.
He
Right.
did not provide a proposal. This individual, we made contact recently. Well, we did not we reached out to him.
Okay.
Right.
So, but that would be one of the,
It
when
seemed
I
like a
referred to
different-
one of the more niche companies that we
Right.
think might be able to work around us, that I was.
Right,
referring
that's
to
a little,
similar
it's a little bit
organizations.
different, so you're absolutely right. So the phone is the satellite,
Is
but
the
there's one satellite, so it's the concept of also installing satellite.
Yeah, it's a GPS. It's
It's
just,
a GPS.
so basically, I'm trying to avoid using company names. just
Right.
for purposes of
Yeah, no,
conversation.
right.
Yeah. No, that's okay.
Yes, I'm sorry, is that
But
company?
So they have their own GPS. So in all of these companies would prefer us bringing their own GPS systems because, you know, then they own a bigger chunk of what we're trying to do. The most cost-effective way would be from what I understand, would be for them to use our existing GPS and just to marry up our software. They can't commit to that without checking it out first.
Correct.
So that's why they offered us 2 quotes, but I will say, this one particular company that I'm looking at right now, it was only a $5 difference per vehicle if they were to come in. So you could say, I mean, it's salesmanship and they're trying to get us committed to their product, but we'll certainly, if Dr. Chanley directs, Ms. McDonald and I, we will certainly explore these types of things.
I would, my recommendation would be
Yeah, we
to
have to explore
move forward, yeah.
it. We need a
And,
solution
you know,
for
and-
parents that are uneasy about where
Right.
the bus is.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll collect more information and.
But this is a very good, this is an
We'll come
excellent
back-
starting point.
we'll come
Yeah,
back with more
excellent starting
updates.
point, so, okay.
So we have 75 buses in our fleet. right?
74.
74.
So
And these
let's-
are, we don't own these buses, not all 75, all
Yeah,
Yeah, they're ours, these are ours.
So at $75.
74,
Yes,
she said our
yes.
fleet is 74, I
Our
believe that
fleet
can
is
include some
bigger.
vans, maybe.
Yeah, oh yeah, well, 74 vehicles that
Yeah.
service as either a
Okay,
bus
so
or.
at
Those are
5
ours that
At
we own.
75 vehicles, at $50 per month.
Mhm.
I'm just using an example. That's $50 per month. If we gave every bus driver in the district a phone and paid the $50 a month service fee, we'd be at $37.50, and they could all download 360 on their phone. It's just way cheaper to do it that way. I know it sounds crazy, but
How
it
much
would be, it's $37.50 a month.
So this
It's a lot of
particular,
money.
so I'm looking at a particular vendor that is generally regarded as, for lack of a better description, the gold standard in this particular
Okay.
market. The initial quote was $60 per unit. And that would be if we installed their GPS hardware. If they were able to exist with our existing GPS hardware, it would be 55. So you could see it would be a small difference. However, Mr. Tefano's
Per
point,
bus.
per bus.
Per bus.
Every month.
I think it's safe to say that there probably would be less, maybe less sophisticated or maybe more creative, maybe less sophisticated is a bad idea, but more creative solutions such as just drop a phone on every bus and have everyone download Life 360.
Yeah.
Or are there any grants for it?
Or, you know, maybe we look at just, you know, maybe there are other ways we can improve just communications in general.
And then,
find
right,
ways
and
to
maybe,
push that up.
maybe we do all of our legwork, come up with various different proposals, and then also sit down with transportation and say, what can be done with our own
Right.
programs? What do we currently have? Bring in Mr. Feldman
And we
to
looked
have
at
these conversations.
Very
Say,
standard
what
products.
do we
but-
do,
so
what
we-
could we do better?
Another
Yeah.
solution. There are
In-house.
companies that sell to used car vendors. When a used car goes out and it's being financed, they install a GPS tracker in the car. And then the dealer, if default payment is made, the dealer knows exactly where the car is located, knows where the car is traveling, and then can send their repo person to get the car. That tracking system is available to the public, and I know they're not that expensive, so that's another thing to look into.
It also,
And we have the mechanics to put them on the bus.
we're fine, so we certainly could go out, like I said, we're looking at pretty standardized products in our inquiry. We have yet to counter proposal with a creative solution that they can mention. So if that's, you know, we certainly will do the legwork on that. I also, I surmise that moving forward, you know, as new vehicles enter the market, they'll probably come pre-equipped with much of this
Right.
this technology. So maybe in like 10 years, this will all be embedded in our normal practices anyway. But there definitely is benefits in knowing exactly when the bus is going to show up.
Absolutely.
So we will continue to explore it. And
Especially in the
come up with
winter.
some- Yeah, no, for sure.
Or a rainy day.
Mhm.
Don't want your kids staying outside for half an hour, God forbid. I can sympathize with parents that are worried about that.
If we started building our own app with the high schoolers,
I was just gonna say that.
by next year we'll have that.
So
We've
you
got
can
a
do ahead.
talented group of teachers and students.
Yeah, I can see where my children are right now if I wanted to, you know, but I see the,
No,
Apple tags.
it's interesting how many of these companies there actually are and variants of them, including the locally owned,
Put an Apple tag on every bus. And parents can have that tag access. A lot of different solutions. Pay 5,000 a month. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, but again, I'm sure there's always room to negotiate if we had to, you know. I would be curious to see if, again, being a layman's in the transportation department, but just being more of a researcher, I would wonder what cost effectiveness there could be if we're reevaluating Kathy's gonna kill me, reevaluating our GPS systems in general. You know, I don't know enough about the hardware, but my guess is that every year the technology becomes superior. And I don't know what the lifespan on these things are, but maybe that if not in the immediate future, as we continue to update our fleet, like I said, most of these, my guess is that these things are gonna become standardized.
our current tracking of the transportation department uses the GPS or they use their walkie,
You know, it's called Zonar. It's a fairly widely used, but again, this is for administrative purposes only.
Only.
Emergency services, if there's, God forbid, there's a, you know, accident, we can do some, vehicle maintenance and things like that based on some of the systems that are in place. Not intended for the parent use, you know, what we're looking for something that the parents can utilize for their own benefit.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you very much. Appreciate it.
That's all you're on.
Let's go.